I have one clear problem with my Breville dual boiler. I've had this machine for 18 months now. It was my dream machine, one that I was hoping for the past 6 years. I recently have moved it into my coffee studio in the basement where I have all my testing equipment. You can see grinders right behind me and then my Breville dual boiler right there. And here's one thing and one reason only why I wouldn't recommend the Breville dual boiler. And that's because it feels cheap. I've used a lot of machines. I have a Rocket R58 Cinquantoto upstairs. It's a very expensive machine coming in at $3,300. The problem is the Breville dual boiler I feel like I can do more with. I added the flow control, which you can see with the knob there on the back corner, and that allows me to control the flow rate of the water, and I found that critical into making espresso. When I can control that flow rate, I can manipulate the shot well enough that if I mess up on my grind shot setting, it is still usable for espresso. But when I pick up my Breville dual boiler, when I use it, it just doesn't give me as much joy as I'd hope because it feels kind of not well built. Now, I do want to be a fair warning that I haven't had any issues with it. It has held up well. The last one that I had was 9 years old before I accidentally broke it when I was taking it apart and changing some stuff that voided the warranty on it. So I broke one that lasted 9 years with very minimal care and maintenance. So while not everything is replaceable on this machine super easily, it does last a while. And it's not something that you have to really worry about, especially when it's coming in at half the price of the Rocket R58. But it heats up pretty quickly. You can control the PID. You can add that flow control. And when you add flow control to the Breville dual boiler versus a Lilith Bianca, a flow control that you can put on any E61 group head like my Rocket, you get more control because it has the Slayer mod is what they call it, and that gives you needle valve control when you switch over the hot water tap for it, and it's phenomenal. It gives you way more flexibility and way more control than what I can get on my Rocket R58, which makes me disappointed because I'd much rather have that control, and it frustrates me that I don't get that control with my expensive machine, yet when I use this one it just doesn't feel near as enjoyable to use as my Rocket. So if I could change one thing on it, it would just be simply the build quality. And I wish that I could buy this machine exactly as it is, but just built better, built more solid, and even if it was more expensive, I think that would be probably my favorite machine. Obviously a Slayer is completely out of reach, and that's something that I've hoped for and wanted for a long time, but at like 11 grand that they are now, it just doesn't seem worth it in the regards of home. You can buy a decent and control everything for 4 grand. It just doesn't look as pretty, in my opinion, as a Slayer. So if you're looking at a Rocket, if you're looking at a Lilith Bianca, if you're looking at a Breville dual boiler, you're not going to get really any better shots than what you can get with the Breville dual boiler. And I think that's phenomenal at the $1,600 price point that is, that it can compete with well over $3,000 machines if you add that one modification. But at the end of the day, it still kind of leaves me a little disappointed because you are missing out on the build quality and the enjoyment that you get from another machine. And I personally just don't like the looks of my Breville dual boiler. I just wish, I don't know what it is exactly like it. I think it's because I like the kind of open group head versus like how there's like a little, it's kind of like hidden and tucked underneath of it versus like an E61 where it's kind of fully exposed. I just like that more like open look that you get with the E61 style, and it just makes me not like things like the Ranchillo Silvia and the dual boiler, because that's just my opinion on that. I still love my dual boiler, but it's like I go back and forth often on whether I want to keep it or whether I want to sell it and replace it with something else. But then I know if I sell it, I'm not going to be as happy with the quality of shots that I can get out of it, because the Breville dual boiler is just so phenomenal at that. So I'm not really sure how I feel like it, but if they fix that one problem, I would feel so much better. Thanks for watching.